Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for choosing Simply Sold for your home renovation project. We're so excited to be working with you. We are going to be sharing 5 main points with you today that are expectations for your project. You'll be getting a guide shortly after this, but we wanted to hit these key notes with you.
Yes, and the purpose of these points are to go over exactly what to expect throughout this process. Everybody is aiming for the final product. We cannot wait to see your beautiful renovation. However, between now and then, things can get dusty and messy and sometimes a little complicated, and we are here to mitigate that as best as possible.
Yes, you know, with the Simply Sold experience, things operate a little bit differently, and your level of customer service is going to be much higher than with other companies. So we are here to describe that process for you to know exactly what you're diving into. The first point we want to make with you is that we are not designers. We are the contractors, which specifically means that we focus on getting the work done and not the functionality. Designers will focus on picking out materials with you to make sure it functions in your space, that measurements are correct, and do on-site verifications. But we do not do that. We focus on the implementation, the execution, and the management side of things.
The second point is renovations are messy and dusty. We are all working towards the end goal of giving you a beautiful finished product. However, the process in between is far from pretty. We mitigate those dusty, complicated challenges as best as possible. We will be taping up plastic. We will be moving furniture out of the way. We are covering your floors. We tape off your AC vents to prevent dust from blowing throughout the house. We do everything humanly possible to mitigate all of the craziness. However, just know that it's completely inevitable. This process is necessary to give you the final polished look that we're all aiming for. And know that during this process, you need to be prepared to share your space. You're going to have guys in and out. You're going to have your project manager in and out. There are going to be meetings. There's going to be materials. There's going to be loud noises. It's all part of the process, and it's something you need to know going in this so you're fully prepared.
Our third point is that we will be scheduling all of the work. So keep in mind that you and your project manager are the only 2 people that know the most about your project. So communicating frequently with your project manager about your needs is the best way to get the best answers and the best solutions to your problems. Make sure not to talk with vendors or anybody else on site about a particular problem, as they don't have all of the information about your project and can't adequately answer. It's also good to keep in mind when you're living in your home throughout this process that sometimes you'll see things before we do, which is okay. That just means that you're living there and you might be catching a few things before we are able to. But the next time we're there, we always thoroughly check the site, and I promise that we will catch it and we will find a solution for it. But don't feel the need to take on the role of a project manager, because that is not your job. That is why you hired us, and leaving that up to us allows us to accomplish more on a daily basis without having too many cooks in the kitchen. So just keep that in mind throughout your project.
Our fourth point is our vendors are technicians. They are trained in their specific field and industry, and they do their job very well. However, they do not have a macro perspective. They are very honed in on their task at hand. Therefore, it is key to remember, if you feel obligated or feel the need to start asking them questions, that might really confuse them and make your job and your project more complicated, because they don't understand the full perspective, as they are there just to get one particular thing done.
Keep in mind too, to Michelle's point, that this actually makes your job move even slower. So when you're talking to them on a daily basis, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, they can't get your job done as quickly because they need to be focused on the task at hand, which is what they're really good at.
They are very good at it. And it's important to keep in mind that our vendors think mechanically, and me and you might think a little bit more strategically. What that means is you might not necessarily agree with how they are doing their process. You might have an opinion of how things should be done differently. but we hired them for a reason. And whatever they may think about their process, even though they do things very differently than me and you might, we are still getting to Z. We will still make it happen, and we know and we trust that they will get this job done for us. So it's really important to kind of keep your thoughts and suggestions maybe to yourself, not in a negative way. You may certainly can bring them up to your project manager, but it's always best to kind of just let the vendor do his thing. And then at the end, we can then assess and address his work if needed.
Yes, agreed. I think it's important to remember that we all have our own perspectives and our own opinions, but don't let that cloud the process that we know will work.
Yes.
Trust our process, trust that we know what we're doing, and try to focus on other things, because that's why you hired us. You hired us to get this job done the way we know we can get it done. Trust the process and come along for the ride. The fifth point is we are human. It's good to remember that you might have the occasional mistake or item left off of the invoice. That will happen from time to time, but it's good to also read over your invoice and take accountability for reviewing everything before you sign the contract or after. Just check to make sure everything's on there and that we've done our due diligence as well as you to ensure that that happens.
That's a really good point. And also to remember, when we start demo in your home, especially if you have an older home, we have no way of knowing what's behind your walls. We have no way of knowing what's underneath your floors or maybe in your plumbing. Things do come up and it's inevitable. It's just part of the process and it's unfortunate. We wish we could see everything ahead of time.
Plan for that unexpected.
Yes.
Because it will happen. We guarantee it.
Yeah.
Small or large.
It's important to remember, if you were doing a large remodel, to maybe consider having a contingency fund. That means don't budget for the exact top amount that we are doing the work for. You need to really plan for unexpecteds beyond that. It just helps lower the surprise when those things do happen, and that you guys are prepared for anything that might come your way. When things are found unexpectedly, your project manager will bring them to your attention. She will bring cost associated with those and provide you with solutions. We are all solutions oriented, and we will find a way to fix things and to make sure that it's in your budget. But knowing that going into the project, I guarantee will allow for a smoother process throughout. And it's important to remember that we have your best interest in mind. So the reason we point out these 5 things is because we've gone through them, we've experienced them, and we know that they can happen, but you have not quite been there yet. So when things do come up or something of what we just discussed today happens in your project, please remember what we've discussed today, because we've been there and we have solutions for it all. Overall, we ask that you give us the benefit of the doubt, because we are your advocate throughout this entire process and we have your back.
We sure do. We are your team, and just know we are so excited to be working with you, and we can't wait to dive in.